Well, hello, everybody. It's very good to see you all, both in the United Kingdom and around the world. I know that many of you will be watching and listening to this wonderful webinar at a later date. And we hope you're all well and happy when you're watching it. I've been so excited about today. As you probably know, I introduce lots of speakers in my various roles that I play. By the way, my name's Neil Hawkes, if you don't know me. I'm chair of Living Values British Isles, and I wear lots of other hats as well. But my passion is values and the development of values worldwide. But as I was saying, I'm particularly excited tonight because I'm going to introduce a real close friend of mine and someone who I really rate professionally in the absolute top tier, absolutely inspirational speaker, one of the best head teachers I have ever come across anywhere in the world. Julie Rees has this incredible capacity to actually live the values. We were talking before coming on air, and I was saying about her as a person and how she and her qualities actually make the school she lives in. People often ask her, well, why is it so calm here? Why is it so purposeful? And it's really a reflection of Julie's internal world. I was asked today to write a blog, so I've been writing a blog this afternoon, and it's all about politics, really. And I've been very careful not to be party political, but I've been saying that the leaders of the world really need to think about ethical ways of thinking and behaving. Integrity is the key one I've been working into my blog, because I think without integrity, all the other values don't really shine out. You've got to have integrity, which is the quality of being honest and straightforward, and so people will have trust in you, all those sort of things. And Julie Rees is a living example of someone with integrity. Her school is in Ledbury, in a wonderful town, which is a part of the county of Herefordshire in England. Julie was able to get the whole of the town of Ledbury, well, most of it, actually involved in being a values-based town, which was an incredible thing to do. And she spoke with the mayor and the corporation and everybody there to enthuse them to sort of follow what her school was doing, so that she's been incredible in working with the community of Ledbury and inspiring not just children, not just her staff, but people throughout the community. So Julie, I'm really pleased to introduce you tonight. As I said, I'm really excited to see you, and I know we're in for a treat tonight listening to you. So without any more ado from me, I'll hand over to Julie. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Neil. And as always, you've made me feel very special. You hold me in a wonderful space, and I truly value our friendship and everything that you've inspired in me over the years, because without you, I would not be the values-based leader that I am today. So thank you very much. And hello, everybody, whether you're here live on the call or whether you're watching the recording, it is a real privilege to be with you tonight. So I am just going to share my screen. I have got a few slides that I want to talk through with you, because this is about how can we be tonight, and I want to relate to you how we've developed our values within our school in order to become what we want to be and how we want to be and who we want to be, and how we then extend those into our community, working with our parents and the beautiful residents in our community and beyond, which is really important. So I am just going to share my slides. Here we go. Okay, so as Neil very kindly said, I'm Julie Rees, and you can find me on Twitter at Julie Rees 100. Please connect with me. I love to speak to people, and I find that's a great platform to get inspiration, to meet other leaders, and also for connecting. That's the place where I make my many connections across schools and beyond. So how can we be? I mean, that's a challenging question at the moment, isn't it? We've just come 2 years out of a really challenging pandemic, where we've had to be very different in our home lives, in our work lives particularly. We've had challenges every day presented to us. And when I became a head teacher, if anybody had told me that I would be a head teacher working from home on and off for 2 years, I would never have believed that that was possible. But the great power of technology and Zoom is amazing, actually, to know that we can connect. And the fact that I'm speaking on this webinar now to many of you across the world and connecting, that means we have a very different way of working, a very different philosophy. But we have been different over the last 2 years. And I've taken time for this webinar to really reflect on my roots, where my being started, both personally and professionally. And I want to explain to you how that's shaped and influenced the work that we do at Ledbury and within our community. So I just want to show you that it all started here, really, when I was a student at what is now University Worcester. Absolutely amazing place to learn to be a teacher, and it does feel like yesterday, but dare I say it, that was 1986 when I played netball here with my friends, and absolutely loving studying to be a teacher. I didn't choose teaching, first of all, it chose me. Being the eldest of many cousins in my family, I was always the one who was left to lead the children, do activities with the children. Julie will babysit, and I wanted to work on a cruise ship. That was my ambition when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. And then I did go and volunteer in a school. And I realized that my being in that time was fulfilled. I had a sense of fulfillment because the joy, the absolute joy I had at 17 and 18 years old, volunteering in a primary school, when those children connected with me and I knew I could make a real difference, that's when I wanted to become a teacher. And from that point onwards, I knew who and what I wanted to be. But I did ask myself, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of teaching? Why do I want to be committed to teaching? I knew it wasn't ever going to be the best paid job in the world, but what would be my legacy? What impact would I have? And I came across this quote, Krista McAuliffe, I touch the future, I teach. And in 1986, she was a teacher in America, and she went in the space shuttle Challenger. And within 73 seconds, sadly, the space shuttle did explode. And I read a lot about her at the time. She was very inspirational. She was a key person that shaped my education during my degree. But this quote really resonated with me. And this is why I do what I do and still continue to do what I do. And I'm sure it resonates with Neil as well. All of our work in values-based education and leading with values and ensuring that the children and the next generation understands values means that we are touching the future. It is so powerful. This quote for me is what all teachers should have up on their wall every day, to remind them that every interaction is an opportunity to touch the future. Every time we smile as a child that comes into assembly, every time we have that twinkle in our eyes as we catch somebody at the back of the classroom, they will remember how you make them feel. Today, I had the opportunity of going up to our high school. Our children, when they leave us at 11, go to the local high school. And I was in some of the classrooms, and there were a couple of boys, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys in different classrooms who had been with me at primary school. And it was such a joy when I walked into that room and I could see the little smiles and the little twinkles, and I was able to go over and engage with them. And one of the children, who perhaps was a little bit tricky at times when he was with me at Ledbury, I said to him, I said, "Oh, I do miss you so much." And he just looked at me, he's 14 years old, and he said, "And I miss you too." And you just know that you continue to have that connection, and that you will be part of, you know, shaping his future and shaping his thinking going forward. So as Neil told us, my school is called Ledbury Primary School. And I say my school, obviously it's our school. I've got wonderful staff of 62 people, wonderful children, about 440 children in the school. And several years ago, the children actually came up with what we stand for at Ledbury. We used to have quite a long strapline, which was sort of related to I Touch the Future, I Teach. It used to be improving tomorrow by learning today, but the children never remembered that. It was significant for us, the adults, but the children didn't really engage with this. And I wanted something which would relate to the community where Ledbury is. I wanted it to be a contextual mantra, a contextual vision statement. So the children at the time were engaged with the Olympic Games, which was being held in London in 2012, it's 10 years ago. And they kept talking about everybody they saw being determined to succeed. Look at Ellie Simmons, she's determined to succeed. And eventually, when the children said to me, "Do you know, Mrs. Rees, Ledbury Primary School, we're determined to succeed as well." So that's what we've adopted, and that's what we've kept. And here are two pictures of some of our wonderful children. And I must mention our beautiful school dog, Bailey, who's a beautiful Labradoodle. And we use him all the time in the school to bring peace and happiness and love and joy to the adults and the children in the school, a big part of our community. And he goes out and shows those values in the local community as well. He's owned by my Year 5 teacher who lives in Ledbury. And what a difference he makes when he's out and about and being able to engage with other members of the community and the children. Oh, sorry. So underpinning our vision statement, which is about what we do at Ledbury Primary School, we think about how we are going to get there. And I wanted to have a mission statement that really could be relatable to the whole community. I wanted people to understand what we were about. So we said that we want everybody to achieve their best, whatever their starting points are, whatever their interests are. We want to equip them with the tools which will enable them to achieve their best. We are a highly inclusive school. We have children with high-end needs at the school. We include everybody. We never, ever say no. And we know that some of our children will not go on to academically achieve high GCSEs and A-levels in university, but we also know that our children will go on to flourish and be creative and succeed highly in whatever they choose to do in life, because they will be equipped with those values, that determination, that resilience, and take responsibility. The second part of this is we want them to love life and learning. We want the staff to love life and learning. And that's been an important part of the work at Ledbury as well, of the work-life balance that we create for the staff so that they can be what they want to be when they get home. So they're not overloaded with work that's unnecessary. A few years ago, we decided to do no written feedback policy in the school, and that's had a tremendous impact on the staff and their relationships with the children, because it's enabled them to assess the work within the classroom and not have to write in 90+ books at the end of the day when they should be having quality time with their own families. Be confident and happy. It's my dream that every child leaves our school having that inner confidence and that ability to communicate clearly and be conscious of how they're communicating as well. with a wide range of people, but also be happy with themselves. Inner happiness, we do a lot of work, inner curriculum work and inner work as well in mindfulness and reflective practice in the school. I know that's really important. The inner curriculum for Neil is very important. And finally, we've gone with 3 values that underpin what we want the children to achieve. Respect, and that's not just showing respect for others, that's showing respect for themselves. Absolutely fundamental that they know how to respect themselves, their behavior, their bodies, their health, the choices they make. And in doing that, show responsibility and also have that resilience, which, my goodness, we have really observed over the last couple of years through the pandemic. Children being challenged to have to engage with online work, being restricted in their movements, not being able to hug their friends, not being able to work closely with their friends as they would have known before. But you know, children bounce back, and we're seeing that bounce back ability right now in our schools. And just to have all those children back in front of me during an assembly and being able to engage with them, talking about our values, is just a wonder again. And I appreciated it even more than ever now that we have normal service resumed. So we have gone through many transitions with our values. I started with values-based education in my previous headship at Clihongo in 2003. And in Ledbury, when I became the head teacher in 2006, we probably had the 22 core values that I know Neil has used to shape values-based education in schools. But over the years, these have been reviewed, and rightly so. We want our values to be current, we want them to be relevant to the school. But I would say contextualization is absolutely paramount. We've chosen these B values to be a part of our new curriculum, which we have called the Belonging, Being and Becoming curriculum. We really, truly want the children to belong to the communities in which they live, belonging to family, belonging to their school, belonging to the local community, belonging to the UK, belonging to Europe, belonging to the world, belonging to the universe. We want them to understand their sense of place. We also want them to be themselves. We want them to be authentic. We want them to be who they want to be and not try to emulate other people, not be pressurized, particularly with the advent of social media in its current state and the pressures that are put on our young people. We want the children to grow and be completely themselves. And then the becoming bit is all of that knowledge, all of the experiences that they have, they can become anything they want to be as long as they put the determination in. And these values are the ones that we've chosen to underpin that curriculum. We've chosen these values about 3 years ago, and they do shape our thinking, and they shape our calendar year, they shape my assemblies, and they shape the language and the ethical vocabulary that we use with the children on a daily basis. So I'm going to use each of these values now to show how we link them from our school into the community. This is a summary, first of all, of what our curriculum encapsulates. It was so important when we developed our curriculum that the children understood their place in history. I wanted them to understand that now that the present moment is the one that they need to engage with, whilst understanding their past, but also having the skills to look to the future. We know that we are equipping our children for jobs that have not been created yet. And this is why values are absolutely essential for children to have in their toolkit as they go forward and further through the 21st century. Indeed, we've just celebrated our Queen's wonderful 70 years on the throne. And I said to the children as we presented them with their Platinum Jubilee badges, you probably are in the middle of 200 years of history because the Queen was born in 1926, and many of you will be alive in 100 years' time, and that span is around 200 years. And that's really powerful when you think about their place in history. So there's those three aspects, and I want them to have a deep and connected knowledge of where they come from, who they are, and what they might become. So being, becoming, and belonging is really, really important. I want them to be a positive member of the community, become a skilled citizen, and become compassionate so they have a thriving future for themselves and others. So our first value, about being determined. We put this one into September because it really does set the context for the year. And just because we have a value that changes every month, it doesn't mean that we're not determined the rest of the year. We obviously talk about this value all the time, but this sense of togetherness and being together is very, very strong when we're being determined. And we talk a lot to the children about having this growth mindset, really, really important work that has been done, that when we are really stuck in that pit at the bottom, when things are really challenging us, that we have the determination to go all the way through. And very often I use the same language when I'm talking about issues with parents who might come into the school, or in the community if we're trying to achieve something as a group. We might be applying for a grant, or we want to get something done. And that true grit, you can't underestimate the power of it. So I've tried very much this year to get the children involved, working with projects with Ledbury Town Council, and they have been able to influence the shaping of Ledbury. And I must say, Ledbury Town Council are really open to listening to the children's ideas. So that determination to prove to the children, look, if you are in it together, you work hard, you voice your concerns, you can actually change and shape the future. But you do have to have that vision and that determination not to give up. And the sum of your parts is so great, much greater than the thoughts of the individual. So I'm really, really, really proud of the children when they do come together and raise their concerns about different issues that are affecting them in their local community. The next one is about being resilient. And we talk to the children about being brave, taking risks, that it's okay to fail. In fact, this is one of my first assemblies at the beginning of the year with the children, is about, I want you all to fail this year, because only through failure are you ever going to learn. And what does failure look like? And actually, does failure actually exist? Because failure is just learning in disguise. That's all that it is. And being resilient is that, as I mentioned earlier, that bounce back ability. But in times of equal times, when things are balanced and controlled, talk to the children about, that's the time to develop our strengths. That's the time to develop self-regulation. That's the time to develop positive attitudes and really expand our toolkit. So that when times do get tough, like in the pandemic, when it becomes chaotic, we can draw on those strengths. We can draw on what we know we're good at to really see us through those times. And then we can bounce back when it becomes equilibrium again. The resilience I see with our children is absolutely immense. And once again, going into the community, this is an aspect of value that I really do worry about with some families who really do struggle to find that ability to see the bad times through in order to bounce back into the good times. So we have wonderful charities we work with in Ledbury. We've got the Leaf charity, which is supported by the schools and by different religious groups in Ledbury. They work with children and their families to support them in these tough times, to develop this resilience. And having these open conversations about what does resilience look like with families is absolutely crucial. Families need to feel trusted in order to have that level of vulnerability, so you can have those discussions about being resilient. Being peaceful. Being peaceful, I think, is absolutely quintessentially one of the most important values that can be underrated in any school. Having that sense of stillness, calm, reflection, that ability to hold that space for a child and model it for their families once again. And we have this opportunity as the school to go into our community, particularly in November when it's Remembrance. We take the Year 6 house captains and vice house captains, and they are part of the wonderful parade for the Remembrance. And they stand with respect, and they show the community their ability to engage and show respect and be peaceful. But it's part of what they do every day in our assemblies, in our classrooms. We have this wonderful time after lunch when the children return to their classrooms, and they may do a peer massage, which is really calming. They ask permission to have a peer massage with their friends. We have this very unique time at the end of our assemblies where we rub just our finger and our thumbs together, feeling all the ridges to calm the brain chatter in our brain. And just for 1 or 2 minutes, share peace with each other. But more than that, this year particularly, it's been very poignant to receive refugees from Afghanistan and from Ukraine, and talk to them and support them in finding peace in their lives. Many of our children come from very busy households where there might be 4, 5, 6, or in one family even 7 children running around. So creating the environment has been really important to make it peaceful as well. So children have a place where they can go, where they feel it's their place. It might be what we call the purple chairs. It might be a little nook with a book. It might be in our friendship garden. Just giving children time and space to find peace and experience peace, but then model that back with their families and their homes in those conversations that we have. And another way we've taken this into the community is that we did a poetry trail with benches one year, with trees another year, and with doors around Ledbury another year. And we have got a peaceful bench in Ledbury. We have got a peaceful door in Ledbury. We have got a peaceful tree in Ledbury. And the children have really enjoyed writing poems about those different aspects, and they know that they can go and visit those in their community to find that inner peace. Be caring. I know we're not supposed to be political, but this does make me smile, this photo. So being caring really is about engaging and showing the children and the adults and the community that we're really connecting with them. For me, caring is connecting. As we can see on the right-hand side, the beautiful smile, the eyes, the absolute amount of care and love that is shining in this photograph is immense. And to be able to care is to let go of your ego. To be able to truly, deeply care is to say, I'm going to put that aside today, and I'm actually going to talk to that family or visit that family or spend time with the child who's really struggling on a personal problem maybe, or within the classroom. It is absolutely essential that we give time to show we care, that we're not rushing on. Having a walk into the community and connecting and caring about the people that live in that community shows our values are working, they're in action, that we don't just jump in the car and come home, that we are embedded as part of that beautiful community. Being wise. If you've not come across Charlie Maxey, I suggest you do. There's his Twitter handle on there, and he writes these beautiful books about key values that we use all the time. And I love this quote and picture. "Do you have any wisdom for today?" asked the boy. "Yes," said the mole. "What is it?" "Don't put off till tomorrow the cake you could eat today." Incredibly wise words there. But I think the underlying message there is, don't wait for tomorrow for things to come your way. Be wise in using the time today. Don't save your best for tomorrow. Don't think it's going to come ahead of you in the future. And this is a very clear message we give to the parents and families in our community, that your children will soon grow from being 3 years old to 9 years old to 19 years old. So how are you going to be wise in using this valuable time that you have with your children? Listening to them read, playing games, going on a nature trail. And some parents actually want to have ideas. They want schools to guide them. They want schools to provide activities that they can do with their children. So being wise for me is about thinking about what the needs of the community are and not assuming. It's about talking to the community and saying, how can we help? How can we help you right now? Being wise is drawing on all of our values. And again, assessing a situation and saying, what is needed right now? Is it days and days and days of exams? Or actually, do we all need to go on the field and have a good party today? Is it sitting in a classroom and ignoring the snow falling because you've got to get through that test? Or is it saying, right, do you know what, children? Today it's snowing, it only happens once a year. We're going to go out and we're going to enjoy it. And if leaders and those in the community can really think about, what do we need today? What do we need to be fulfilled today? What does our community need from us right now? That is wisdom in action. Being humble. Now, the reason I've put the picture on of the two children listening and talking to each other is, I think humility can be grounded in the ability to listen to others. How many times do we enter a conversation and we're not truly present and not truly engaging with the speaker? We're thinking about how we are going to respond. We're thinking about our own stories that we want to share, instead of really appreciating the presence of the person who's talking and really taking on board the messages that they're giving us, and then continuing to be curious about what they're saying and asking further questions, and not thinking about our own agendas and bringing our own stories to the party. Teaching about being humble can be a real challenge in school, but we've chosen it as a value because we really want the children to understand the power of humility within their own leadership as children, in their conversations with each other, with their peers, with being able to hold each other without boasting about their own agendas. And then taking that into the community, the listening element, it's so important to model that, to be doing that, but also us listening to what the community needs, us going out and engaging with the different groups in the community and saying, how can we help right now as a school? How can we embed ourselves in this community? Being honest. Now, Neil alluded to this earlier within integrity, and I love this quote. Honesty is telling the truth to ourselves and others. Integrity is then living that truth. Exactly what Neil was saying earlier. We know when we're being true to ourselves. We know when we're being true to others. But how do we actually then put that into action? And I think honesty for children, they are so tuned in to us as adults when they feel we're lying to them. Even when we tell white lies, even when I get a teacher who's coming up to her 60th birthday and I say, oh, look, Mrs. Smith is 21 today. They know, they know. But being honest also is about being vulnerable. It's also about putting our hands up and saying, look, we're not quite coping quite now. We need some help. We need your support. And many families throughout this period, particularly the last 2 years, and with what's coming ahead, are struggling financially, struggling with the expectations being placed upon them. So I'm always saying to the community, come and have a chat, come and be honest. It's the best way. Because if you are honest and open, we can find that support, we can find that direction, we can work together. We can be determined to succeed together. But don't struggle on. For the children, having honesty in their lives is always the best policy. And any issues can be resolved if we are honest to ourselves and others. Being positive. So this is a group of my lovely children on our new bridge, which is in our forest school. It's only been put in the last 2 weeks. And the reason that I've used this picture for being positive, it shows a beautiful link with our community, because it was their parents who actually had this bridge manufactured. They worked hard to get it concreted in. They all came into school on a Saturday. They put it together, and they are so proud of what they've contributed to our school. And I've put it under the umbrella of being positive, in that I always think there's goodwill in any community. And I think if you are role modeling the expectations, or you're asking for what you need, or again, you're being honest and you're saying, look, we haven't got enough money to repair the bridge that we need in the forest school right now. Through positivity, you will reap the rewards. I am a glass half full person. I always have been. I always look for the good in everybody. And yes, we have the challenges, as I've alluded to, through some of the values that we use. But there is good in every single soul. I know that in the past I've heard Neil talk about children being like the onion, and in the center of that core of everybody, we were all born with good, honest, positive bones. And if we can really hook the heart and the compassion and the love of everybody into our communities, then we get great results like this, where community comes together. And this bridge has had a phenomenal impact, not only on the children in my school, but because it's been on social media, we've publicized it, we've engaged with those who made it, everybody feels good. So being positive is a really important value for our school. Being tolerant. Now, I think this is a great value, tolerance and understanding. We do a lot of work in school around understanding each other. And one of the things that's really helped us is thinking about personalities. And this is one particular personality tool that we use. But I use this a lot also now with parents, trying to understand that some of us lead with our head. We think things through, we analyze things in detail. We have to have all the facts before we make our decisions. Whereas other people lead with their heart, their intuition, their gut, their feeling. Then other people are introverts. They like to reflect and think on their own. They don't like to work with other people in solving problems. And then others are extroverts. They like to be out there and they like to be partying and working with groups of people, and they're generous and open-minded and spontaneous. And actually, all of these factors about personalities come together to give us different personality types. And sometimes, if we don't understand that our world is so rich, the tapestry of it is so rich because we're made up of all these different personality types. And if we didn't have all the different personality types, we would not be able to achieve what we achieve in humankind. So when we are getting frustrated with each other in the community, I say to people, please do not be frustrated, be fascinated. Always remain fascinated about where your personality type is coming from, what your behaviors are like, because they might be very different to the person that you're speaking to or you have to have that conversation with. And this little tool here has not only really helped our staff understand each other, it's helped them in their relationships with the community within which they work, but also understanding the children too. And we're not branding people different colours here. We're just saying that we've got to understand that people come from different perspectives and we have to be tolerant and understanding. Being curious. I love the Japanese principles of Ikigai. In fact, I really truly believe that I have found my Ikigai, and I've been fortunate from the age of 18 to find my Ikigai. What the principles say is find your passion in life. Find what you truly, truly love, what you really want to do. Then find something that you feel you're good at. For me, I knew that I was good at teaching, particularly in maths, particularly in English, particularly in PE. I love music, but I wasn't particularly good at teaching music, but I knew I could teach. Then think about what the world needs. The world needs values-based education. That's the element that's enhanced my Ikigai since engaging with values-based education. And then find out what you can be paid for. When all of those elements come together, that's your Ikigai, and that's when you can make a change in the world. So let's be curious all the time about what we can bring to the world. And I say to the children, be curious about going to play that game of football. Be curious about learning that new instrument. Be curious about finding out about that artist. What 5 questions are you going to ask your mums and dads when you get home? What 5 things can you find out in your community? You can use the value of curiosity to expand that interest into the community. I just wanted to add as well, as part of values-based education, we're very keen to ensure we create the optimum learning environment for the children. And these are some photographs of elements of my school. But again, being aware of the physical environment in which these children we are working in our community, they go out very often and do litter picking. They go out and ensure that the rec is tidy. That's where they play. It's having pride in our environment and understanding how important it is in school, then taking that outside school as well. So they have a deep pride for where they live. So be aware of the environment. I also just want to allude to everybody thinking about being a good role model. And this is something I've used for many years about the importance of being okay and understanding when we're not okay. And when we're not okay, we can make sure that everybody else is not okay. So the importance of being honest, of communicating, of being open, so that you do make sure you end up in those top boxes where you're feeling okay, which then impacts on other people. And that really leads to how we can be in school. And I always come back to this quote here from Haim Gino, who talks about you have the tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. And as a teacher, we can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. And it's my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, the child humanized or dehumanized. But that's not just for teachers, is it? It's for all of us in how we can be in our relationships with each other. So how are we going to be? I also love the work of Robin Sharma. He's amazing. He talks about leadership without title. And I encourage people to think that if you were best in the world at what you chose to do, what would that look like? Lead without title. You don't need to have a headship or a principal or a CEO title. Just how do you lead yourself? How are you being? Because then you can have the biggest impact on your community. And finally, I want to end with this. Being authentic to me is absolutely fundamental in us being able to live a very happy and fulfilled life. And over the last couple of years, I've had the privilege of becoming a life coach. And I've decided that my job as a life coach is to enable people to flourish by asking the right questions and supporting people. And I believe that we are like ferns. We're all filled up like this. And part of our ferns unfill, but not all of them. And through using our values, through being curious and being kind to each other, we can all flourish. We can all unfill. We can be alive. And then if we are alive, we are healthy and we are happy. And that's what everybody wants to be until they go on to wherever they go to. So I want to finish with this one by J.M. Barrie. In order to lead this wonderful life, always be kinder than necessary to yourself and others. What do you want to be when you grow up? Kind, said the boy. I hope you can be as well. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Julie. Now I can see everybody, I hope, who's there. Do turn your camera on. And now's the time to just share what you've been thinking. If there are any questions you want to ask, anything that you would like to explore with Julie, now's your time. Before I invite others, let me say something, Julie. I was profoundly affected when you were talking about your assembly at the end, sitting quietly. This is often in so many schools an area that people find quite difficult for all sorts of reasons, which we could talk about. But you seem to have found that now at Ledbury, giving the children that. And I've never forgotten coming into your school once and experiencing the massage session, which some colleagues will say, oh, that's a funny thing to do in a school. But it worked so beautifully, developing at a practical level so many values that I saw. Absolutely wonderful. So have you got any further thoughts to share with people about developing peace, really?
I think one of the important things about bringing a whole community together is holding the space for those people to be how they want to be. So as you're aware, we have no shushing and we certainly have no shouting at the children. All the adults model for the children that this is a time for reflection, to listen to the stories that we share or the assembly that we're sharing. There's the peaceful music as you come in, and the children can just be in their own space. And it's their time to just absorb and listening. And again, the importance of listening in that assembly to the key messages. But then to know that they can be part of a community, they can sit with 440 odd people, but they can be themselves. I think that is so powerful, and we don't do that enough when we come together as a group. I think we feel that if we're in a meeting or if there's a large group, we have to be talking, And going back to those personality types, I know that at least half of those children in the school are going to be those thinkers, those reflectors who need that time to just absorb and be quiet. Whereas I also know the other half are sitting on their hands thinking, oh, I wish Mrs. Rees would let me just bubble away and talk. But we have to give time and space for both. Going out on the playground and being with friends and laughing and joking, and that's the time for our extroverts to really explore themselves. But we don't create enough time for the children to just be.
Thank you, Julie. Let me hand over to colleagues on this call now. Over to you. Who would like to say something? Joe.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for a very inspiring talk. I always feel I want to go back to school when I hear about these values schools. Sounds just so wonderful. There was just something, you were talking about going into secondary school and meeting up with former pupils. Something that I've always wondered about is that whenever I've been into secondary schools, they seem like, well, certainly the ones I've been into, just such a huge kind of system, and they seem so different to primary schools in general, let alone a values school. And I'm sure you'd say, well, the values schools prepares them for this, but I just wonder whether there's any sort of transition that goes on to prepare them, and how that works, and whether they settle down, and just that issue.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, isn't it? So we work very closely with our secondary school, and I know that they have values. They're different to ours, but they have core values as well that they follow through. But I think the key to it for me is looking at the relationships that happen in a secondary school. So I've been to a couple of different secondary schools recently, and I'm really pleased to say that the values that the teachers have shown in their relationships, that one with the sparkly eyes and the smile and the engagement, rather than it be a regimented, forceful atmosphere, that's certainly shone through the schools that I've been in. So although they might not teach explicitly about the values as we are in the primary school, I'm not quite sure how they go about doing that. I certainly felt them implicitly recently. And around transition time, it's really important that we all have those conversations about, the children who do have that level of responsibility and resilience, and those children who we think could need that extra support, and the wider community. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan, are you itching to say something?
How can you tell, Neil?
I can tell.
Julie, thank you. That was beautiful, actually. It was beautiful. And you've actually raised a question around the use of language, which I think language is very powerful, and it sets the tone. And you touched on two words in particular, success and failure, where you talked about who's to say what failure is, and I want you to fail. And if you look at the world of sport, there are many people in sport that say that what you need to do is not get carried away with your success and not get too down with your failure, because in a way it doesn't matter, it's what you do next that's most important. So recently I've been wondering whether these words are particularly useful, actually. And I'm just curious whether you have any alternatives that you use rather than using those words.
Well, that's a really good question. So, as you know, the whole thing about Lebby is determined to succeed in itself. So we talk about determined to succeed, but what does that success look like? So what's wonderful on a Friday is we have celebration assembly, and we have our values heroes for the week. And I love it because the nursery values heroes are Jessie has been determined to put Velcro on her shoe this week, or Jessie has been determined to wipe her own nose this week. And then year 6 is, Joe has been determined to multiply his fractions upside down and inside out. And the whole school can see that success looks very, very different for different children of different ages. And they all come out the front and they have their determined to succeed hero badge. And the 11-year-olds are just as proud as wearing them as the 2-year-olds who, have moved from nappies into toileting themselves, so I love that sense of community. So I think that's the important thing about success, is that success can look very, very, very different. And it's important the children see that. In terms of failure, we talk a lot around the growth mindset. We talk a lot about the learning pit. And we say that failure is a form of learning. And I think if you can equate those two together, then children see it, accept that it's okay.
Thank
They're
you.
not labelled as failures. But good question, thank you.
Anybody else? Ikuku?
Hello, my name is Indira, and thank you very much for such exciting presentation. In my part of the world, it's night, and usually at the same time, I usually read a book for my children. They are 6 and 9 years old. So, the question is concerning the parents. How do you usually involve parents in value-based education? Do you have some special programs, events?
So we communicate all the time to our parents about values-based education. We have a weekly newsletter that goes to the parents, and always on there we talk about our values. They know about the heroes of the week. We talk about the value that we're working on at the moment. We have parental events at the school. Neil has attended those in the past, where we've asked the parents to come along and talk about what values mean to them. But also the children tend to lead those events as well. The children are so articulate and so passionate that they want the parents to explore values, which is really important. I think more than anything, being at the front gate as leaders and as teachers at the end of the day, every day, and when we're handing the children over, we're role modeling for the parents. Today your son, he showed absolute determination to succeed. I saw resilience with him, and he was very honest when we did this. So you're modeling that language all the time, the vocabulary. Postcards home to the parents all the time, phone calls home to the parents all the time. School is about communication. And if we can communicate through the values, then the parents start using that with the children themselves. But as a parent, what I would say more than anything, Indira, you're doing a wonderful job by listening to your children read every night. Try to be tolerant and understanding of your children when they drive you crazy. And I say to the parents, please don't ever shout at your children. You really must never shout at your children. You must really try and hold them within love, and really cocoon them up in kindness all the way along, because they will pick up your values. My daughter herself was speaking to me the other day. She's 27. And we were talking about what was it like when you were at university, Lucy? And she said, Mum, I never chose to do anything naughty. I had too much respect for you. And I would have been so embarrassed if something happened to me, because I know that you held me in love and kindness all my life. And I would never disrespect you by making any wrong choices. And it's the first time she's been very open actually about those values. It was a really interesting conversation. And yeah, we talked about trust. We talked about all sorts of values. And I suppose because I was living and breathing it, it became quite natural to me. But I'd love to do more with parents. I really would.
Thank you.
One of the things you do, Julie, I've seen, is bring parents, often parents with challenges, into your school. And the atmosphere of the school nurtures them and helps them in a very lovely way. I think you're outstanding in the way you just nurture and help your community.
Well, thank you, Neil. It's about relationships. It's about caring. It's about genuinely wanting the best for those children. And if their parents are happy, then the children will be happy and thrive as well.
One last question from anybody? or any observation? No, everybody done? Well, yes, absolutely spot on timing. Well done, Julie. May I thank you from the bottom of my heart for a really inspiring, heart-led talk. Alan was quite right in what he said. You know, you have this incredible ability to attune with people in your audience, and you attuned with each one of us, and each one of us felt very special, and we felt that you were communicating deeply to us. You weren't just talking about your school, you were drawing us into that beautiful story which you've crafted in Ledbury. It is an outstanding school, and I know you influence countless people in this country and around the world, and I'm so proud of what you do. You are a role model for values. You don't just talk values, you live values, and you face the challenges of life in a values-based way. It hasn't always been green grass either at the school and things, as we both know, but you just make the best of every situation. I wish I could clone you and send you into so many schools in the world that don't quite understand what values work in a school is. It starts with living the values, understanding the values and living them, and that's what you do. And then, to use one of my expressions, you release the creative dynamic of everybody who works with you. They all feel wonderful. They all want to give and give and give, and it's just incredible. And you nurture them. You don't just use people. You give them parties and send them cakes and give them flowers and all sorts of things to make people feel good. So congratulations, and thank you for all that you've done for those children in Ledbury and beyond. And thank you so much for giving us a treat tonight, giving us those insights. I'm sure this webinar is going to influence countless people that are going to listen to it in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your very generous words.
And the next time we will meet, we're going to have, as the Americans say, a summer recess. And we were going to meet next in September for a webinar. And many of you will know the great and illustrious Diane Tillman is going to lead a seminar, a webinar for us. Diane is the main author of Living Values books. Many of us have helped her, but she is the one that's done so much work around the world to help develop values. So we'll all be excited to hear from Diane in September. A heads up, in October, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I can't be certain yet that Living Values will have a seminar in Oxford. We run these seminars. Julie, you spoke at one once, and for many years. And of course, where we hold them, the Global Retreat Centre in Oxford has been refurbished, and we're hoping that it will have finished that by October, and we will be one of the first retreats to go on there looking at values. So watch this space on that one, and may I wish you all, wherever you are, a very pleasant day or night, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you all very much, and bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.